The question loads and loads of people have been asking, terminologies when lawyers come and they speak some other time. You ask yourself, who is a candidate, who is an aspirant, well, who is contesting and who is flying the flag of the party? Well, joining us to still look at the same issue of the Bayelsa PDP issue is a lawyer as well as a law lecturer at the Niger Delta University, right?
Very correct.
Okay. Mr. Douye Fiderikumo, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, did I get that? Fiderikumo?
Yes, Fiderikumo.
Fiderikumo. Yes, I wanted you to put me through on that. No, so let's start with some terminologies now. Who is an aspirant in this particular scenario in PDP in Bayelsa State? Who is an aspirant? Who is a candidate?
Well, it is really difficult to say in view of the fact that you would have to look precisely at which of the primaries you are looking at, because
so it takes us back to the primaries.
Yes, because the truth is that until the primaries of the 19th of November, which is shrouded in legal controversies, there was actually just one candidate for PDP, Bayelsa State, and that's the governor of the state, and that's because all the requirements of the law with respect to submission of names and the fact that there hasn't been an express withdrawal, because under the Electoral Act, really the withdrawal is it's the sole prerogative of the individual. You write to the party now informs INEC, and INEC under law is actually bound to ensure that it hears from you. You understand the point? In fact, there was even a case I understand in Nasarawa State where they had to forge the signature of a candidate whose name was already there, in order to enable the party to put his name. So it actually depends on how you look at it. But an aspirant within the context of the Electoral Act is somebody who actually desires to be part of a process. He hasn't gotten there yet. I was looking at the Electoral Act and I noticed that it says a person who has an ambition to achieve something. So right from the minute your name is submitted, in other words, the party has actually held you out as their candidate. You have metamorphosed from an aspirant to actually a candidate. And under that kind of condition, there are just two things the party can do. One, you withdraw, forming your party, or the party actually brings proof of the fact that you are dead. Aside from those two circumstances, your name will be there for all purposes.
Well, our last guest, Ikechukwu Ikeji, also a lawyer, your learned colleague, he says, well, that doesn't hold water because in as much as the court has kind of annulled all of that process leading up to that particular election then, which never came to fruition, by giving them an extension of time, it then means that what was before has been erased by that singular judgment.
Yes, you see, the problem most times is that we need to really think deeper. These are two different issues completely. The primaries of the 12th of January 2011 is not the same case that you actually had in the Court of Appeal. You understand the point? We need to separate them. There is no judicial statement, pronouncement in that judgment that actually affects that. Incidentally, I'm aware very clearly that the People's Democratic Party encouraged them, asked them to go to court, at the same point and told them to go and be part of the primaries. So they say we need to separate these issues. The first thing we need to recognize is that what the court said was that the tenures of these guys, these 5 governors, are not actually expired. In other words, you are not to conduct the election at this point in time. It had to be deferred. That was what the court settled. The issue of the primaries has not come up in any case whatsoever. And it's going to be stretching this thing too far.
Mr. Fiderikumo, before that court case,
yes,
that court case came as a result of processes towards elections.
Yes.
Now, based on that judgment, shouldn't the processes towards that election stand nullified?
No, it shouldn't stand nullified. Let me explain why to you. Because you see, the thing is, under the Electoral Act, Section 26, subsection 1, there are actually express powers vested on INEC under certain situations to defer election. All INEC can do is to say, we put it forward. We are going to extend. We are going to, let's assume, for example, you are going to, let's say in a constituency here in Lagos State, there's actually natural disaster or there's a likely breach of the peace. You understand the point? And this circumstance continues for about 6-7 months. In fact, I remember in Bayelsa there was a point in time, a town they called Peremadri was engulfed in very serious communal crisis for over a year. Nothing actually happened there. So what you do under the circumstances is merely to stall the election. What had been done by a different legal entity is not your business. I'm talking about the People's Democratic Party, which incidentally is actually a corporate entity. An artificial person of its own is different from what INEC does. We need to separate these two issues, because what was before the Court of Appeal and now the Supreme Court was whether the provisions of Section 182, subsection 2 as amended had a retrospective or prospective effect. In other words, when they said that in determining the tenure of the governors, you would include even the period of time that they were actually in office where they were not elected. That is what the Supreme Court is looking at now. The Supreme Court is considering that question. Whether that particular provision itself is to operate backwards or is to operate from the day of its enactment. They are not deciding the issue of the primaries of the 12th of January 2011. And we must understand that, you see, even when the People's Democratic Party was actually aware of the fact that these primaries, that they were actually in court. In fact, I in one of those days I was actually in court when I saw the legal advisor of PDP. They were arguing that yes, it was appropriate for them for the tenure to be extended. In other words, the party backed their cases until invited these men to go and conduct primaries.
What do you think?
Giving the impression that if the elections do not actually hold at this point in time, we can just simply keep your primaries until when the elections will come up.
No.
There
are many ways to look at it. I mean, the fact that the party backed they're going to court doesn't necessarily. There are many ways to interpret that. It could also be that if that's not the case, at least we already have primaries and we'll still fall within the 60 days within which we can give INEC
more
results.
Like plan B.
Yeah, more like a plan B. So there are many ways to interpret that particular incident. You don't think so?
No. I agree with you. You see, there's something I want you to understand. You see, this issue is actually a very complex one. It's a very complex one, and
maybe it's complex because we've chosen to make it complex. I mean, people have also given a host of other instances where, an action has been carried out, and that action is perfectly legal. Look at what happened in Anambra State, with Andrew Uba contesting, even though there was still a sitting governor who had gone to court to go and see if his tenure will expire that same year. And the court ruled that, yes, your tenure still continues. But by that time, INEC had already conducted perfectly legal and legitimate elections. And the governor was duly elected or returned elected as then the so-called governor was duly elected, and he said he was going to keep his certificate until Governor Peter Obi's tenure expired, and the court said no, there was no such thing.
No. See,
that election was for that.
The issues are different. Let me explain to you.
The issues might be different,
no,
but
they are
the
different.
Circumstances or the
markedly different. See, they are markedly different. Let me tell you. The case of INEC. OB against INEC, which incidentally I was even reading this morning. So what the Supreme Court said was that as at the time elections were conducted to the office of Governor Anambra State, the office was not vacant. It was actually an illegal act. An illegal act. You get the point? It was an illegal act.
The primaries now that were conducted in January for a seat that was not vacant, that was not going to be vacant in April, was not an illegal act.
No, it wasn't an illegal act, and I will explain that to you. Because you see, in the first place, the distinction is that at the material time, what they needed to consider was, is there a reason for the deferment of the election? You see, the issue of primaries is actually entirely a party affair, kind of, to a large extent. If you say that by virtue of the fact that on the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal had actually deferred the judgment, had actually extended the tenure of the governors. there's still the legal question as to whether you can genuinely say that that judgment itself actually extends to this. You see, there is no basis. There is no basis. Because it is more like an exercise in logic.